Did you know how the band The Postal Service got its name? Picture this, two friends, both incredibly talented musicians, but living miles apart. These friends are Ben Gibbard and Jimmy Tamborello, the dynamic duo that makes up The Postal Service, a band that has left an indelible mark on the indie music scene. Their geographical separation could have been a roadblock to their musical collaboration, but instead it became the inspiration for their unique name. Due to conflicting schedules and the inconvenience of distance, they turned to the United States Postal Service to keep their music alive. Gibbard, based in Seattle, and Tamborello in Los Angeles would send each other music tracks through USPS. A beat here, a melody there, lyrics sent back and forth. The Postal Service was more than just a band name. It was a testament to their unique method of creating music. Their technique was unorthodox, but it led to the creation of some truly memorable songs. Their debut album, Give Up, released in 2003, became an instant hit. With its blend of electronic beats and heartfelt lyrics, it resonated with listeners around the globe. The album's standout track, Such Great Heights, is still a staple on many a playlist, nearly 20 years after its release. But it wasn't just about the music. The Postal Service's unique story and name caught the attention of fans and critics alike. Their name is a nod to their creative process, a process that challenged the traditional notion of a band and how music is made. Despite only releasing one album, the Postal Service's impact on the music industry is undeniable. They proved that distance is no barrier to creativity and that unconventional methods can lead to extraordinary results. Their story is a reminder that sometimes limitations can inspire innovation. So next time you listen to the Postal Service, remember their unique name's origin. Are you ready for some more surprising facts you probably never knew? Let's plunge straight into it. Imagine a day dedicated to appreciating the simple things in life, like the roof over your head. Well, such a day does exist. Known as Roof Over Your Head Day, it falls on the 3rd of December every year. It's a wonderful reminder to express gratitude for the basic necessities that we often take for granted. Now let's take a virtual trip to Alaska. Did you know that it is the only state in America that can be typed on one row of a traditional English QWERTY keyboard? Yes, you heard it right. Try it out. Moving on to the world of music and pop culture, let's talk about Michael Jackson's iconic shiny glove. It turns out it was not as glamorous as it seemed. The glove was actually a modified golf glove. Who would have thought, right? From pop culture, let's travel back in time to the era of the ancient Greeks. They were not just philosophers and warriors, but also innovative inventors. They invented the spiked dog collar, not for fashion, but for a very practical purpose, to protect their dogs from wolf attacks. And speaking of origins, have you ever wondered where the terms Mr. and Mrs. come from? They are abbreviated from the words master and mistress. Over time, these words have evolved and taken on a more respectful connotation in our society. Lastly, let's talk about salt. Did you know that the only difference between kosher salt and table salt is the grain size? Kosher salt has a smaller grain size, and just like table salt, it comes from underground salt deposits. Who knew the world had such interesting facts hidden in plain sight? Stick with us for more fascinating trivia. Ever wondered about the origins of everyday things? Let's dive into some unusual facts and origins that might surprise you. Take Q-tips, for instance. These trusty cotton swabs weren't always called that. Invented in 1923, they were initially dubbed baby gays. Over time, the name evolved to Q-tip baby gays, and eventually they became the Q-tips we know today. The Q stands for quality, underscoring the brand's commitment to reliable, high-grade products. Now let's talk about something we use in daily conversation, Mr. and Mrs. These terms of address have a pretty interesting history. They actually originated from the words master and mistress. Over time, these lengthy words were condensed into the shorter forms we use today, becoming an integral part of our everyday language. Moving on to your kitchen, let's discuss salt. You might have noticed different types of salt in the grocery store. Table salt, kosher salt, and sea salt, to name a few. But did you know that the only difference between table salt and kosher salt is the grain size? That's right. Both types of salt come from underground salt deposits, but kosher salt has a smaller grain size. Finally, let's talk about the Olympics, an event that unites the world through sports. The coveted gold medals weren't always as we see them today. In fact, The last Olympic gold medals made entirely out of gold were awarded in 1912. Since then, cost considerations and practicality have led to the creation of gold-plated silver medals. So, the next time you're cleaning your ears, addressing a letter, seasoning your food, or watching the Olympics, remember these unusual origins and facts. They remind us that even the most mundane objects and terms in our lives often have fascinating backgrounds. Everyday items and terms often have fascinating backgrounds. Ready for some more intriguing facts to share with your friends? Let's dive in. Did you know that our bodies are constantly renewing and repairing themselves? It's true. Every 10 years, the human skeleton completely renews itself, meaning you're practically walking around with a different set of bones than you had a decade ago. Now, how about this for a space-age fact? The first game ever played in the great beyond was StarCraft, taken to the stars by astronaut Daniel Berry during the Space Shuttle mission STS-96 in 1999. Back down on Earth, Houston stands as the most diverse city in the United States, with a rich tapestry of cultures and ethnicities. And speaking of rich, in Europe and the USA, May 29th is celebrated as National Put a Pillow on Your Fridge Day to bring luck and wealth to the household. Lastly, when water freezes into ice cubes, it expands to take up 9% more volume. Keep these facts in your back pocket for your next trivia night. Scene script. Let's wrap up with some more amazing facts, shall we? Now, have you ever unwrapped a delicious Hershey's Kiss and noticed that little piece of paper sticking out? It's not just a random addition, but it actually has a name. It's called a Niggly Wiggly. It's surprising how something so small and seemingly unimportant has a name, isn't it? Moving on, let's talk about the martial arts legend Jet Li. As a child, he performed with the Chinese national wushu team for President Nixon. Surprisingly, President Nixon asked him to be his personal bodyguard, but Jet Li declined. Can you imagine turning down a request from the President of the United States? Now here's something you might want to remember before you enjoy your next grapefruit. This citrus fruit can restrict the effects of 43 different kinds of medications. Yes, you heard it right. So if you're on medication, it might be a good idea to check with your doctor before you dig in. Let's travel back in time to the age of dinosaurs. These enormous creatures had a unique way of digesting their food. They would swallow large rocks which stayed in their stomach to help churn and digest food. It's a little bit like having a built-in food processor, isn't it? Did you know that the word robot comes from the Czech word robota? This translates into forced labor or work. Quite fitting for a term used to describe machines designed to carry out tasks, don't you think? Lastly, let's dive into a slice of history. In 1943, US officials imposed a short-lived ban on sliced bread as a wartime conservation measure. Hard to imagine a world without ready sliced bread, isn't it? But don't worry, the ban lasted less than 3 months. And with that, we've added a few more intriguing facts to your knowledge database. Stay curious and keep learning.